Multiple world record holder Nick867 and I have been going hedgehog by hedgehog racing Sonic 06 against its fan remake, Project 06. The rules are simple. Go stage by stage in the act trial, beginning the race when we select Crisis City and ending it when we hit the goal ring in Blazes Wave Ocean. Since Silver controls quite a bit differently than his brethren, speedrunners of the original game have found a way to bust his story wide open with a little trick called the telethrow, which I'll leave to Nick to explain.
When you stand on an object with Silver, with the right trigger, if you hold that, you'll lift up to a height cap, and if you press X, normally he will jump off of the object and it will throw towards something he's aiming at. However, if you're standing on it at a slope and you lift it to the height cap and you throw, you get to stay on the object as it's being thrown. So you get to ride the object while it's being thrown, and you can direct it wherever you want to go. And it's way faster than Silver's normal movement.
In other words, fuck PO6. Ready? No? Well, too bad. Welcome to the Sonic 06 versus PO6 Silver Race. In 3, 2, 1, let's go! Taking off into Crisis City, PO6 utilizes a few new abilities Silver has in the fan project. Since speedruns of the game are done on New Game Plus, we can collect the upgrades ahead of time and utilize them throughout the run. Look, I understand it's Sonic 06, but I was literally setting up this clip to go buy things from the shop, and Blaze just fucking dies. She just dies. Like, why did that happen? The route through the fiery streets begins immediately with some badnik bounces, something the spiky boy can only do with the Lotus of Resilience. Then we use a lizard on the crumbling road ahead to get a small jump and teleport dash all the way to the fallen skyscraper. This is the other ability of the Lotus, lengthening Silver's teleport dashes to use up the whole action gauge rather than a set amount, including if it were to refill while we're airborne. This will come into play later on in the run. Then we run to the other side of the building, letting the energy cores catch up so we can activate ESP mode. This is the not super form Silver gets in PO6 from the Sigil of Awakening, which only appears after getting an S rank in every stage of his campaign. It does a ton of stuff, but for right now we just need it for the reduced action gauge cost, allowing the Silver guy to fly all the way from the skyscraper to the broken landmass farther in, skipping a good chunk of the level. From here, we badnik bounce again up to a rune, then activate it and animation cancel off of it so we can get a huge slope jump and land on the lifted objects as they're moving, getting Silver to the girder a bit faster. After that, it's just some hovering and teleport dashing to the next section. In retail, Nick runs to the nearest liftable object and... So this is how it's going to be, isn't it? In Section 2, we switch to Blaze and take advantage of her Fire Claw to skip a good chunk of the level after the jump panels. Then we use her Restored Claw attack, which will be removed in the next version of PO6 Rest in Peace, to cut through the enemies, then double jump and Fire Claw our way to Section 3. Retail skips Blaze by flying around the trigger. This is possible because Nick skipped grabbing the Shock Bracelet when setting up the save file, which allows him to do the Levitation Extension trick. With the Psycho Smash gone, if you hold X the frame after a hover ends, Silver maintains his speed and, as long as X is held, refills his action gauge mid-air. You'll see how useful this is. With our companion successfully skipped, Silver hops on a rock and telethrows to the end of the section. Section 3 is a bit of a nothing burger, though this is the only time in the game where you start in one part of the stage, leave to another one, then return to the previous one, as this is the other half of Section F. So we just teleport dash on PO6's side and telethrow on Retail's side to get to the end. You know, this telethrowing stuff, it looks kind of fun. I'm gonna give it a try.
Come on, what did you think was gonna happen?
Finishing up the opening stage, Retail starts strong and is ahead of PO6. Let's see if Nick can keep this up. Tropical Jungle is an incredibly dense stage with many mechanics like dropping the fruit into the turtle's mouth in order to ride it, activating runes to break down barriers or hit balls, vine swinging to reach new areas, and is jam-packed with multiple routes and shortcuts. It must have taken ages for both the programmers at Sonic Team to make and the PO6 devs to replicate all the things they put here. Yeah, the swamp is destroyed with the teleport dash on PO6's side and the telethrow on 06's side. Retail actually has a pretty tough setup for it, as Nick has to push a box so that it's at an angle when he lifts it so he can properly influence its direction. As for PO6, the route is pretty cool as you fly underneath most of the stage, then use one of the log rams to gain a bunch of height to get to the end. And that's it, just a single section. While infamous casually, both games actually have a relatively easy time with Dusty Desert. The billiards behave much better in PO6, going mostly where you want them to and having their global countdown timer removed. After we defeat defeat the initial enemy waves, utilizing the Psychic Knife, which is gained from Silver's final new upgrade in PO6, the Flame of Control, we pop ESP mode before the balls fall into the table to save some time. As in the next room, we again use the reduced action gauge costs while grabbing a gauge up capsule midair to instantly refill it, bringing us to the switch and changing over to dun dun dun. Don't worry, in this game, Amy is significantly more fun to play as, and even that's an understatement, with a returning hammer jump and overall improved acrobatics. Because folks have such a fun time playing as her in the remake, Chaos actually extended her section a bit, now having to climb to the top of the tower room instead of just lunging across it, and doing a little bit more platforming here and there to squeeze out as much game time with the pink hedgehog as possible. As with basically all the other amigos, I hope the team takes some creative liberties and gives Amy more appearances in the last release, as right here in her White Acropolis End of the World section just aren't enough. After switching back to Silver, we fly through another sand room, then see another aspect of ESP mode, the ESP Blast, which on activation of the state defeats any enemies surrounding the hog in a pretty decent radius. And while the balls are already better to slap around, the final puzzle was made easier with some non-breakable walls and ramps added, along with the final hole pulling the ball in if it's nearby and flushing it down. For 06, since we're inside this time, you may be thinking that the telethrow won't be useful. Oh, what a sweet, naive child you are. One of the most popular tricks for casuals in retail is taking a box to the final door of the ball puzzle and uplifting next to it so Silver clips through the top of the door and can go straight to the goal ring without having to worry about the stupid billiard. Naturally, this principle can be used on any door in the stage, so Nick takes a pot from the first room and uses the door frame to turn it upside down, giving him a flat surface since there aren't any square boxes around here, and lifts Silver into the door frame, taking him out of bounds. Then Nick uses the sand waves of the next room to push the pot out of bounds with him, then telethrows through the void to the end. And this isn't even the craziest part of the run. Since I have had to basically play every stage in full and Nick, well, doesn't, he keeps his lead 3 stages in. But can 06 keep it going? Eggman's snowy base begins by forcing us to play with Blaze. And oh my god, retail actually has to play a section. Well, almost. The hot-headed feline is able to clip through the laser gate at the beginning, and with a precise setup, at the end of the stage is able to transfer the speed of a dash panel into her spinning claw attack, which maintains its speed and allows her to clip through the final door. Section 1 in PO6 is largely the same, just faster thanks to the remake's improved control. No clipping through doors here though. Section 2 is pretty straightforward. We get to take advantage of teleport dash slope jumping off of some rocks to get to a platform and fly over the laser wall. Then float across the tundra, perform another slope jump, and hit the goal ring. With retail catching up with some telethrows now that Nick's in control of Silver again. The Loco Locomotive Train Yard is another short one. Don't ask how many times it took to say that, as it's only one section as well. Man, they really banked on how slow Silver was here, didn't they? In PO6, there's a hidden gauge up capsule in the firebox to the right of our spawn, which fills up our action gauge and maturity meter instantly. It's important when speedrunning Silver in PO6 to take note of the maturity meter the entire run, but I haven't mentioned it till now since the beginning of this video was already chock full of mechanics to explain. That's kinda just how Silver is. Anyway, for Sonic and Shadow, the maturity meter is more of an experience bar that allows them to level up their abilities, but for Silver, it's a resource for ESP mode. Once the meter is filled to the white mark or above, you can activate the state. But the catch is that while it's active, collecting more energy cores or gauge up capsules won't fill it back up. So you often have to make the choice on whether you want to activate ESP mode for a little bit to get a quick shortcut or destroy a bunch of enemies with the blast, or wait until it's more filled up to have the benefits of the power up for longer. It's a really cool system that makes you think about when and where to use ESP mode rather than just having it active all the time. That being said, the gauge up capsule fills the meter to max and we don't have to think about any of that. Whee! After destroying the first barricade, we get to see another new effect of ESP mode, reflecting enemy projectiles. Silver actually isn't invincible in this state and will take touch damage if we get too close, so we still have to be somewhat careful. Using this, we can block the flying robot's missiles and Badnik bounce off of him over the train bridge and land on the rail on the other side. Silver, and all the characters for that matter, are actually able to grind in both retail and PO6. It's just that the rails themselves have to be programmed in order to do so, which they weren't in the OG games version of this stage. After teleport dashing off the final cable and destroying the last barrier, Radical Train is complete for PO6. Now for retail. You gotta be kidding me. Probably the most hilarious example of the telethrow in 06 is using the shovel that leans against the firebox at the beginning of the stage. As long as Nick aims it right, which of course he does, he's the GOAT, he can ride that sexy spade all the way to the goal ring. Now for the gauntlet. The next 3 stages in both retail and PO6 are significantly longer and a lot more difficult than the previous 5 have been, save for maybe Dusty Desert. So there's going to be a lot going on here. And by this point, PO6 is just barely ahead of 06 thanks to White Acropolis and load times, so I'm gonna have to to put in a lot of work to keep my lead. Since Aquatic Base is also an indoor stage, Nick will unfortunately have to actually play it a little bit. Never mind. The universal rule of video games is that collision is a suggestion as long as you're going fast enough. And just like how Silver can extend his hover by holding X 1 frame after he stops hovering, the same can be done with the teleport dash, maintaining its much faster speed to allow clipping through the door at the beginning of the stage and fly out of bounds all the way to the section trigger. Just pressing the X button 1 frame after a teleport dash is called an extended teleport dash, or an ETD, and holding it like Nick does here is called the super extended teleport dash, or SETD. And no, they're not diseases. The SETD is only possible without Silver's shock bracelet power-up, just like levitation extensions. PO6, of course, doesn't have that luxury, and we instead have to go all the way around the first section to unlock a door, use ESP mode to fly very carefully through the big balls section, being careful to land on the pillars to refill our action gauge, or a farm, then make our way to section 2. But at the beginning, we got to play as Shadow for a little bit, so take that, retail. Deeper into the base we go, and 06 actually plays it somewhat normally. I mean, Nick's still bending space-time in some parts, but he does ride the big balls for a little bit and has to do the combat at the end or else the goal ring won't spawn. PO6 continues its aura farming by activating ESP mode on top of the magnetic pole, defeating some faraway foes and collecting their energy cores as we teleport dash our way over the big ball section. After seeing some 3D in our 3D Sonic game, PO6 uses the Psychic Knife and one more ESP blast to take care of the final enemy wave and hit its goal ring. There are still more stages to go, but 06 regains its lead on PO6 thanks to that little trick in section 1, so I'm gonna have to make up quite a bit of ground in order to beat it. Ooh, this is exciting. Entering the ruined castle in PO6, we start by setting up a Badnik bounce into Psychic Knife to defeat the initial foes and throw a psychic shot that goes through certain walls to destroy the tower we teleport dash to. Then, using ESP mode, we fly over to a platform with a sentry bot on it, and use it to our advantage by waiting for our action gauge to fill, then use ESP's ability to auto-stun foes close to Silver to stun it, pick it up and crush it with Psychokinesis, then immediately teleport dash off the platform toward the broken bridge. That sentry bot and all the little guys around it individually drop their own energy cores, giving us a ton to use. But the teleport dash is a little too fast for them to catch up unless we somehow find a way to slow ourselves down. The combination of the left turn the Spiky Boy takes, plus hugging the wall slows him down enough for the cores to catch up while we're flying, extending his teleport dash time. Such a cool strat that we haven't seen the last of. Running up the staircase, we grab all the spike balls at the top, then jump and hover over to the wall with all the crabs on it, let go of the hover, and let the spike balls waterfall down and destroy all of them to unlock the way forward. Another one of my favorite tricks. Then, we throw a knife at the nearby enemies, activate ESP mode again, and fly toward the tower. After landing on the outcropping, we throw a Psychic Knife through the iron bars to kill one of the enemies inside. Initiate a teleport dash and turn around the left wall, with the energy core from the enemy we defeated flying into Silver and giving us just enough meter to make it to the platform. Then, just 2 more dashes to the Eagle and we're off to section 2. Probably the flashiest part of Silver's run as a whole in the fan project, lots of really tight timings, and if you fail, it's back to the beginning of the stage because there are no checkpoints along this route. They're all on the right side. Checking in on retail, Nick showcases a new technique, the tele-launch. He first does a specific setup to trick the game into thinking Silver grabbed this rock at the start from far away even though he's standing on it, throws it, then uplifts it, which preserves the throwing speed and allows him to launch, oh, that's why it's called that, into the sky. Then do a super extended teleport dash to the section trigger. Well, sadly he missed it. It is a frame-perfect trick after all. But levitation extensions are a good backup, albeit a lot slower. Section 2 is quite a bit simpler. The Psycho Boy has to defeat a small group of enemies, but then we switch to Blue Guy! Woo! Sonic goes through basically an identical section to his Kingdom Valley, which means we can perform Castle Skip again. However, the route doesn't collect enough rings nor enough energy cores to get the Rainbow Gem to level 3 to do it with the yellow guy. So we instead collect 3 cores from the floating bots to level the purple gem to its second stage, then perform the jump off the second castle with the blue gem into 2 purple gem jumps to get to the other side. Then throw the hog off a cliff to switch back to Silver.
What?
Now, this method may seem faster than using Supersonic, and you're right. However, in the Blue Blur story, we have to take into account the Mach Speed section as well. And using Supersonic from Castle Skip onward in his version of the stage saves time overall. Then with the Gray Man, sorry, I'm running out of names to use, we activate ESP mode, cross some towers, have the Eagle take us for a dip in the water. Hey man, careful, I'm allergic to that stuff, we're in a 3D game. Then one more ESP blast to finish off the stage. As for the original game, you know the drill by now. Nick grabs a box and telethrows to the end. Alright, the big one. Flame Core is probably the toughest stage in PO6 execution-wise. Kingdom Valley Section 1 comes close, as that's a you hit the tricks or you don't and you die, but that's just teleport dashing compared to all the different skills you have to use here. The fan game actually lengthens the intro with a small section where you play as Blaze, going through, or avoiding in our case, the loop set piece and whatnot. And after about 12 seconds of fire clawing and double jumping, we switch to Silver for the remainder of the stage. Please let us play as Blaze in Flame Core Section 1 Chaos, it'd be awesome. Anywho, once we switch to Silver, we do a teleport dash to a platform with an item box. These grounded ones are our best friends because once we let the action gauge fill a little, we can get a running start and slope jump off the base of the remaining capsule and hover our way to the upper platform. Sort of like the original game, you can slightly stagger Silver's hover to get a little extra distance, but it's nowhere near as spammable here as it is there. Then, after Badnik bouncing off the Iblis Golem and hit the springs, we make our way to the first combat plateau. This is the single toughest part of the game in my opinion when it comes to speedrunning, with many different moves all being strung together very quickly. First, we grab the firebox in front of us and throw it at the nearest lizard. The explosion hopefully pushes the electric shock box out of the way, which we haven't really used those in this run, but if you blow it up near enemies, it stuns them. Then immediately turn to the left and perform a Psycho Shock. The Psycho Shock in PO6 will actually push away physics objects if you're close enough to them, and also repel projectiles like missiles, which is something I didn't know until making this video. Neat detail, Chaos. So we want to perform the ground pound far enough away so they don't move, but close enough to stun the lizard that's lunging at us. Then, once he's shocked, we pick up him and the boxes and carefully fire them at the 3 remaining enemies. Once they're defeated, this will spawn the next enemy wave of a lizard, 2 flyers, and a worm. Normally, the play is to psychic knife the birds, stun and grab the lizard, and throw him at the worm. But in this case, the steel box Silver threw at the first lizard in wave 1 continued rolling and flattened the second one right as it spawned. So we're just able to psychic knife the worm and continue on. Switching to retail, since that was a lot of PO6, Nick begins at Silver's starting point and also uses an item capsule to tilt a box and set up a telethrow, flying him all the way to the second combat plateau. For PO6 to catch up, Mr. Future does a double Badnik bounce in the next section to reach the top route, grabs an invincibility capsule, then teleport dashes up the lava river, taking advantage of the sloped terrain to retain some of the speed. Then the second combat zone for PO6 awaits. Thankfully, it's a lot easier than the first, as we throw a box at the lunging lizard, then pop ESP mode to blast away the rest of the first wave. Then clean up the second wave with 3 psychic knives, hitting the firebox next to the golem instead of the golem itself since the firebox one-shots it. Then while in ESP mode, we quickly run through the next corridor, slapping an auto-stunned worm, which in Silver's heightened state one-shots it. Now that's a pimp slap. Then do a really cool flyby of the final part of the section and into the volcano. Back to 06, Nick performs a super extended teleport dash into the pit in front of him, but is able to go back in bounds by turning left after a bit since the collision becomes one-sided after a while, allowing him to skip the combat and make it to the volcano as well. Section 2 drops us onto a platform in front of a few enemies that are important in PO6 for filling up the maturity meter. Otherwise, it's pretty quick through the next couple rooms via the teleport dash. Then through the third door, we get to see another required use of the trick we learned all the way back in Crisis City, the rune animation cancel to jump onto the moving platform and hug the lava fall with a damage boost to skip the cycle of the floating rock going down and back up. Then we fly over to an item box and use the slope jump tech to skip some more platforming, psychic knife the purple titan guarding the door and activate ESP mode as it opens. This allows us to teleport dash all the way through the next room and a little bit into the titular flame cores area. To finish things off here, we activate some platforms, teledash over to the spring, activate the rune on the core, then watch a cutscene and run to the end. Retail, unfortunately, has to fumble around in the dark, getting to a steel crate as quickly as possible, tilting it on an item capsule just like section 1, telethrows, ceilings are a suggestion in this stage, out of bounds, and super extended teleport dashes to the goal ring. What a chonker of a stage. Before we end things off though, there's one more zone to run through, Blaze's Wave Ocean. Retail wonderfully bookends this series since Blaze can perform the same homing attack loop launch that Sonic can through whiffing the loop's homing attack target, sending the purple feline all the way to the whale section, with the goal ring appearing shortly after. The remake utilizes the Fiery Cat's crazy aerial skills, with the ability to perform triple jumps if you sandwich a fire claw between 2 accelerator tornadoes, getting us to the top route just a bit quicker. The stage gets extended a bit at the end too, and now goes through some new, pretty fun level design with some baked-in secret shortcuts. Then we get to use some of the same tech from Shadow's story, where we hug this slanted wall face and jump, giving us extra height, then triple jumping our way to the goal ring, finishing the run a whole minute and a half after retail. Though the broken game won decisively for this campaign. For tradition's sake, let's compare the numbers with the loads removed. PO6's final load list time was approximately 18 minutes, and O6's was 11 minutes and 45 seconds, so the loads accounted for 1/3 of the run. Jeez. Yeah, PO6 had no chance. While by no means easy, Nick's skill and consistency with telethrows, levitation extensions, ETDs, and SETDs allowed him to fly through and sometimes around the hog stages. It's just that broken. While the series took a while to make, it was a blast. Huge thanks to Nick867 for not only racing me, but also being the one to have the idea in the first place. And to his fellow O6 speedrunner Reverie for giving me some pointers on what's even going on here. Also thanks to those who supported the 24/7 days of Stelmas back in December for reaching the goal to do this in the first place. Another thanks of course goes to the Big X of the Chaos variety for creating the silver renders for this video's thumbnail. Looks great as always. And last but not least, thanks to you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.